years. And over this period of time, we've held over 353 workshops. It happened during the week, on the weekend, and it's for anyone to join. So there's 3 different topics or main categories. The first one is
are you comfortable? Okay.
things like embedded systems, IoT, and use of hardware devices like the Raspberry Pi. And for these workshops, we provide you with the hardware devices. Now, we also have code, which focuses mostly on software. We work with API frameworks and apps. And for these workshops, you just need to bring your computer system. And lastly, we have data science workshops on topics like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Overall, we have topics that focus on robotics, 3D printing, AR, VR, cloud computing, and so much more. Our audience members, just like today, are students, they're entrepreneurs, they're professionals, anyone is welcome. This is why these workshops are free and they happen every week. And we're really excited to see some familiar faces that keep coming back. It's very exciting. Now, our focus is on smart technology and practical applications. We want to make sure that you learn something new, build something new, or even just expand on your already existing knowledge at a certain subject. Now, our mission is to make smart things, and you can find us on social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, with this username. You can also check out our online workshops and videos that are being streamed online on YouTube, which are also on our website, theassembly.eu. Now, Hannan Moti is the co-founder of iCode Jr.
Junior.
Okay. He has received a bachelor's degree in economics at the London School of Economics and Political Science. And prior to working at iCode Jr., he has held various leadership positions at leading financial institutions such as JP Morgan, Barclays,
Pfizer.
Having most recently served as the Asia Pacific head of Treasury. Without further ado, please welcome our speaker.
Thank you, Zaya. Good morning. The fact that we have a nice and intimate crowd, I think it's going to be easy for us to make it interactive. So I'm going to introduce myself first, and then I'd like you guys to maybe tell me your first name, what you guys do, if you're working, if you're a student, and what your interpretation of Web 3.0 is. But we're going to mix it up a little bit, right? Let's make it a little more interactive. I'd like you to introduce your neighbor, the person sitting next to you. If you have no one next to you, that's fine. You could just introduce yourself. Great. So my name is Hannan. I am the co-founder of iCode Jr. We are a live online coding platform that focuses on the MENA region. We essentially teach in English and Arabic, and we teach online via our own platform. We start with grades 1 and work all the way up to grade 12. And I'm myself a coder, very passionate about the subject, but I do have a background in finance, having most recently worked with a fintech company. And Web 3.0 is something that's very close to me, essentially because I firmly believe in the need for decentralization, and we're going to talk a little more about that. So why don't we start with an introduction? If you guys want to take a minute, get to know your neighbor, and then introduce them. So I presume you guys know each other pretty well, right? Okay. Do you want to come up front, actually? We got an empty spot right here if you want to come up front. Good, now you know someone new. What's your name, man? Darshak. And are you a student or are you working?
Student.
Awesome. Which university?
Here, University of Valangam.
Awesome. Awesome. And what is your interpretation of Web 3.0, Darshak?
Huh?
What's your interpretation of Web 3.0?
Just curious to learn about it.
Well, what do you know about it so far?
Kind of different. I mean, it's more into like more into AI and decentralized.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Very nice to meet you. Awesome. I hope you guys know your neighbors well by now. I'm going to take a second to introduce my friend Darshak because he's got no one else sitting next to him there. So Darshak is a student at University of Wollongong. And Darshak, you said your interpretation of Web 3.0. Could you tell us all a little about what you think Web 3.0 is? That's all right. You can be seated. That's all right. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. How about we start with you? Bahad. Okay.
Senior business transportation engineer. He's just learning
Awesome. Great. You can go next. Wow. That's awesome.
He's also interested in Web 3.0 and the impact on the domain.
Awesome. And what do you code in? What language do you develop in?
the university, it's in C++, and then on my own, I picked up on Python.
Wow.
With a bit of JavaScript.
So you essentially focus on front-end web development?
Yeah, it's kind of.
Nice.
So building those different platforms.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Bahad. Thank you for being here. Nice.
Today, just the crypto aspect of Web 3.0.
The crypto aspect. Awesome. Sorry, do we have a mic by any chance? So it might just be easier for everyone here. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, I think I just put him on the spot. That's my bad. Okay, so Karan, and you said your name is? Amil. Okay, awesome. Over to you, man. Rishad. With a D?
No.
Rishan. Right, okay. Okay, cool. All right. Welcome, Rishad. Welcome, Karthik.
And if I got the name right, okay. He's from Wollongong and he's into big data.
Big data. Wow. Awesome. And what is your interpretation of Web 3.0? How much do you know about it? What do you think Web 3.0 is about? Okay. Oh, then I'm really, really glad you're here. Okay. Awesome.
He's into AI. He loves driving.
Awesome. Josh, you're into AI? Oh, that's... Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, over to you, sir.
My name is Seth.
Steph?
Working in HR technology.
Oh, it's... Awesome. Welcome, Seth.
He's teaching in Abu Dhabi.
Wow. We have an academic. Awesome.
And I also use my daily life.
Okay.
Just trying to introduce him to this kind of workshop.
Brilliant. Awesome. And your names are? Ahmed.
Yeah.
Ayad. Awesome. Sorry, say that again? You're in the oil and gas sector? Okay, what company do you work with? Okay, I was with Traffic Europe for a while, so. Awesome. Thank you guys for the introduction. So yeah, I mean, a lot of you spoke about Web 3.0, you spoke about decentralization, you spoke about leveraging AI and machine learning in the space of Web 3.0, and you're absolutely right. Right. So what is Web 3.0? Right. So it was a term that was, all right. So there's some conspiracy around this. Some people say it was John Markov. Some people say it was the founder of Ethereum, but it dates back to 2006, where a New York Times reporter, John Markov, wrote about Web 3.0. At that point, it was just about leveraging AI to enhance the user experience on the internet. But since then, it's obviously evolved. It's evolved for the better. And now, essentially, when we're talking about Web 3.0, we talk about a completely decentralized internet. When we say decentralized, we're essentially saying no one person owns the data. We'll cover that more in detail. And basically using AI and machine learning to provide a more intelligent and personalized learning experience. All right? So in order for us to effectively understand the actual transition of the internet, right, we're going to go back to the basics. We're going to start with Web 1.0. We're going to talk about what that was like, and then what came in with Web 2.0, and now how we're heading towards Web 3.0. Right, so how many of you all actually had a personal computer back in the 1990s? Not many of you were around, I guess, in the 1990s, but the ones that were, right? Seth, what do you remember about the internet back in the 1990s? Yes, yes, that sound of that dial-up. Yes, yes, yes. So this was before most of your times, but yes, back in the 1990s, computers were yay big. I remember, I think it was 92 that I got my first computer. It was a 286 with a floppy disk that was 3.5 inches wide. And then back in Khalid bin Walid Street, there used to be a computer store called TouchMate, and that's where I got my second computer, which was a 486 processor with Windows 3.1 with absolutely no UI, and I think they can relate, right? I think Samir and Seth can relate. Did you guys have access? Yes, all right, 486 was your first computer. Okay, cool. So we've actually seen the transition of technology from floppy disks to diskettes to CDs to zip drives, pen drives, and now cloud storage, which we're going to cover. But essentially, Web 1.0 was kicked off back in the 1990s, right? Let me show you guys what a website, for those people who don't actually remember or weren't available. This is what Yahoo looked like in the 1990s, right? What do you guys think? How's the UI? Impeccable, right? Does this bring back memories, Seth? Yeah, most of them weren't born, but yeah, this is Web 1.0, right? So essentially, Web 1.0 was purely information-centric. It was one-way communication where developers would create a website purely for the purpose of imparting information. There was no reciprocation, right? It was considered the writable phase of the internet, where essentially you just put in content and share it for people across the globe, right? It was cluttered with flat data. As you guys see here, there's clearly no SVG images, there's no vector art here. It's essentially text with hyperlinks, right? And Web 1.0 was purely limited interaction. The only way there was two-way communication was via email. Beyond that, there were no social networks, there was no instant messaging, none of that. You go to a website, you look at content, you read through it, and that's pretty much it. Let me actually show you what a typical landing page for a vanilla user like myself was back in the day. Look at that. How beautiful is that, right? So this is the website. I mean, these are similar to the websites I would make back in the 1990s. We used to use a software called Microsoft FrontPage. It was part of the Office suite. And just the fact that Samir is nodding his head brings back a lot of memories. You can relate. But yes, this is Web 1.0. Flat images, purely text. There's no bootstrap. There is absolutely no flex boxes. There's no layout. It's just random text in order. Right? So this is what we grew up with back in the 1990s. Right? So this is Web 1.0. Right? For us, the essential use was encyclopedias. You used to get CDs of Encarta, and we were fascinated by the fact that we've moved away from books and we have digital data. Right? So this is what Web 1.0 looks like. Oh, sorry. And then eventually we moved on to Web 2.0. So with Web 2.0 came in a lot of liberties, right? Web 2.0 was the writable phase of the internet. It allows users to interact with each other. There's a lot of information sharing. It gave users a voice. There was a lot of instant gratification that came with Web 2.0. Podcasts, blogs, social networks. There were bloggers born who wrote their content and tried to monetize it. None of this was really accessible before. You have reviews and rating systems in Amazon, which you didn't have back in the day because there's two-way interaction, right? You have instant messaging and WhatsApp, and this is all essentially Web 2.0, right? And then we've transitioned gradually to Web 3.0, right? Web 3.0 is more user-centric, right? We're trying to leverage AI and machine learning, and based on data processing, we're trying to customize the internet to be ideally suited for a user, right? Web 3.0 is purely, or rather not purely yet, but the idea is to make sure that the internet is decentralized. Can someone tell me what they understand by the term decentralized? Cut the middleman, okay. Any other thoughts? Yeah? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Using multiple servers, which is basically distributed ledger technology, yeah? Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Taking apart the data, yeah? Any other thoughts? Absolutely, absolutely. So there's no central authority. Right? The biggest problem most users have these days is big tech companies owning your data, right? They use your data to personalize ads for you, to personalize shopping experiences for you, and you don't even make any money out of it, right? They're controlling your data, they're controlling your interface, your user experience, but there's nothing for the user to gain, and Web 3.0 needs to change that, right? And that's what they're aspiring to do. We're trying to move to a technology where you own your data, and only if you choose to share that data with big tech companies will it then be shared with them, right? And we're actually moving to a phase where we can make money out of that, and we'll talk a little more about that later on, right? I know you guys had a talk in the Metaverse. Zaya mentioned some familiar faces. I presume some of you people were here when that happened, but what do you guys understand by the Metaverse?
Digital twins.
Digital twins, okay, yeah. A controversial place. All right. Any other thoughts? Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the Metaverse, but the Metaverse is essentially a digital world, something like a Roblox, right, where you're going to live in, and interaction is pretty much going to move online, right? And we're going to talk about how industries are being transformed via the Metaverse. Right, so let's take a look at the evolution of the internet. How many of you guys recognize the logos on the screen here? Right? That right there is Netscape. There we go. Yes. It's clearly bringing back some memories. So Netscape was the first popular browser. For those blank faces, Netscape was the Chrome of the 1990s. Right? You then have Yahoo, which is still around. Fortunately, it's changed a few hands, but it still managed to survive. It's owned by Verizon now with absolutely no valuation. Google existed back then and it still does. They've been doing a good job of staying alive. You have MSN. And now, of course, you have Web 2.0, and I'm sure you guys recognize most of these logos on the screen, right? You have WhatsApp messaging, you have Windows, you have Google Drive, Snapchat, all of that good stuff. Now, this is going to be interesting. How many of you guys actually recognize, besides Bitcoin, recognize the logos for Web 3.0? Yeah, 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 definitely. Ethereum, so right, we have crypto traders here. All right, awesome. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, not exactly Linux, but yeah, close enough. It's basically open source OS. Yeah, cool. Right. So we've already begun our transition to Web 3.0. Right. What you see here on your screen are alternatives of applications that are built on the distributed ledger technology. Right? So before we jump into that, right, I'm going to talk a little about decentralized internet. I'm going to talk a little about blockchain. What is blockchain? Right? Blockchain is essentially a technology that's based on distributed ledger, where it's no one person that owns the data. Right? So for instance, if you upload a document, a notepad file on the internet with the word hello in it, right? That file is actually going to be split across different channels. The letters HE would possibly be stored with you, LL with you, and maybe the letter O with you. And essentially, there are ledgers available to identify who's accessing the data and who's not, right? So the advantage of Web 3.0 with blockchain is that a Google, an Amazon, a Microsoft cannot own your data. It's going to be spread across various servers, and it's not going to be accessible to one owner, and which is why it's considered the safest way for a user to browse, right? How many guys have heard of Brave? Yeah. So Brave is a Web 3.0 based browser, right? They do not share your data with any provider until you actually give them permission to. And if you choose to share your internet data with them, your browsing history, your purchases, they will actually give you money for that. They're going to give you cryptocurrency on their own cryptocurrency, which may not be worth a lot right now, but you're actually getting paid to share your data, right? So if you're going to surf the internet, if you're going to make purchases, you might as well do it with Brave and get paid for it, right? Right. So that's the effort of Web 3.0. Cloud storage, you have Dropbox, you have Google Drive, right? But these are centralized. Your data essentially is with Dropbox. It is going to be with Google. Your iCloud is with Apple on their servers, right? You can actually transition to IPFS, to storage. These are decentralized cloud storage solutions where your data doesn't sit with one owner. It's going to be spread across the spectrum, right? So the transition to Web 3.0 has already begun. Instead of using WhatsApp or Line, I want to say, I don't know, WeChat, all right, okay, right? You got Status, which is decentralized instant messaging. So at least you know that your data is not going to be stored by WhatsApp. If you want to share stock tips or images without getting caught, you know, talk about anything that you think is sensitive information, you can do it via Status, right? And that's the shift, that's the paradigm shift that we're essentially looking for. Right, so in summary, basically Web 1.0 is read and inform. Right? Web 2.0 is more about interaction and engagement, and Web 3.0 is more about secured ownership of data, right? Now, how does Web 3.0 impact you as an individual? How do you think you can stand to benefit from Web 3.0? Absolutely. The biggest advantage you have is no one company owns your data. Your privacy is key. Right? And that's what we're striving for with Web 3.0. We're trying to create a world where no one owns your data except you. If you want to share your data, you can do it at your own choice and actually make money out of it, right? And there are a couple of other aspects of Web 3.0 as well, besides just blockchain and decentralized. There's NFTs and there's Metaverse, so we're going to talk a little about that. But what does Web 3.0 mean to you? Yeah. No, of course, but based on what you understand of decentralized technology, the fact that no one team's going to use your data, so would you consider transitioning to Web 3.0? Do you think, yeah? Okay, yeah, absolutely. So what problems can Web 3.0 solve for you, right? Monopoly, censorship, and control. Have you guys noticed that most websites are either hosted by AWS or Azure or one of these big servers, right? And every time AWS sees an outage, you see multiple websites go down. Why? Because there's monopoly there. 90% of websites are hosted by just a handful of companies. If they choose, they can block platforms and users from their service, and we're trying to take this power away from these providers using decentralized technology. Data hacking. How often have you received emails from Zoom, from Microsoft saying that there was a data breach and we'd like you to change your password? Have you guys seen one of those come in recently? Yeah, that's going to be gone, right? With Web 3.0, it's going to be very unlikely for one server to be hacked, only because your data is going to be spread across multiple different locations, right? So data hacking is going to be, well, it's going to be very less likely until someone obviously finds a way to do that. But yeah, it seems like a pain point of the past. Content ownership, data manipulation. With decentralized technology, it's going to be very difficult to manipulate data because every time you access blockchain, there is a log that's being created, right? So it makes it extremely tedious or cumbersome to actually hack something that's on the blockchain. We personally at iCode Junior, we only issue blockchain-based certificates for all our students and graduates. Why? Because we don't want to just take a screenshot on a PDF and say, okay, I've graduated from your coding program. No, you scan a QR, you go back to a website, it verifies in the blockchain, and then validates a certificate. We're obviously going to talk a little about use cases as well, right? Industries impacted by Web 3.0. Cryptocurrencies. What do you guys know about cryptocurrencies? Anyone? Ethereum? Bitcoin? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, basically mining of cryptos. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Right. So cryptocurrencies, centralized or decentralized, is basically digital money. Most central banks in the world are not comfortable with cryptocurrencies because it's, well, for the major chunk of it, it's all decentralized. So they can't actually track cryptocurrencies. Has everyone heard of Bitcoin? Do you guys know the origin of Bitcoin? Yeah? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Bitcoin was allegedly created by someone called Satoshi Nakamoto, right? This person may or may not be Japanese, but he or she has gone with an alias of Satoshi Nakamoto. And it was created purely for the purposes of buying goods in the dark, on the dark web, right? So Bitcoin found its sweet spot and its fame, its claim to fame on the dark web, websites like Silk Road, so on and so forth, right? Why? Because it's a currency that could not be tracked by banks. It was peer-to-peer, it was decentralized, and it couldn't be tracked, right? And that's how it actually got famous, and that's how its use case was. Bitcoin, for instance, there's only 21 million Bitcoins that can be mined in existence, out of which 19.1 million have already been mined. It's trading at about $20,000 right now. Into 1.9, do the math, there's roughly about $38 million worth of Bitcoin still, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin still available to be mined, right? So cryptocurrencies is something that a lot of central banks and governments fear purely for the fact that no one person owns it or the origin of it. It comes with a downside, right? So there are a lot of horror stories for Bitcoin as well. There was this one gentleman in the UK who had $50 million worth of Bitcoin on a pen drive, and he actually threw it in the garbage. And for the last 7 years, he's been fighting with the UK government to get permission to go to the landfill and fish it out, but he hasn't been getting permission, right? So it comes with its own challenges. Cryptocurrencies have to be stored in a specific wallet, which again is decentralized, and it has to be secured by passwords to make sure that you don't actually lose it. But yeah, cryptocurrency is something that has been revolutionized by Web 3.0. Decentralized payments. Have you guys heard of Ripple? So Ripple is another cryptocurrency. But they floated a coin, but their actual business model is to replace SWIFT. SWIFT is basically a communication message which banks use to either transfer funds or information over a network, right? NFTs. How many guys heard of NFTs? Karthik? Correct. Non-fungible tokens, absolutely. So what is an NFT? What is a non-fungible token? Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. How about you? Yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts on NFTs? Yeah, yeah. Has everyone heard of NFTs? Everyone's heard of it, right? Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to do a quick introduction on NFTs, right? So NFTs is, again, based on decentralized technology. It's like Karan said, it's a non-fungible token. So it's basically an asset, a digital asset, right? So for instance, I had a very interesting conversation with a gentleman who's actually building the Metaverse for Dubai in partnership with one of the ruling families. And he explained it really beautifully to me of how Metaverse and NFTs work. And he said, imagine Dubai in the digital world. I said, okay. He's like, I'm actually going to sell you a floor in the Burj Khalifa. I'm like, why would I pay for that? He's like, if you want to have a meeting with your counterpart sitting in the US and you want bragging rights saying that I own a floor in Burj Khalifa, they're going to put on their VR headset. They're going to come to your floor in Burj Khalifa and have a meeting there. And you're not going to have an empty room. You're going to you want to put in some art on the wall, and that's an NFT, and you have to pay for that. So imagine a scanned copy of a Mona Lisa, right? Which is, I'm not sure if it's owned by the Louvre, but it's in the Louvre right now, right? But a digital copy that's certified by the Louvre saying that you are the owner of Mona Lisa in the metaverse and no one else actually owns it, right? So you're actually paying for that. Let me show you something about NFTs, and this is going to hit closer to home. Yasmin Suleiman, a 13-year-old student from Dubai. She's made over 600,000 dirhams last year selling NFTs online. You've had her before? Could you give her a call? No, I'm kidding. This is her art. Right? How she started, she took an iPad, started scribbling, put it on OpenSea. OpenSea is, again, a website hosted on a decentralized server, so no one owns any of the assets on this website. She just put it up online and she started selling, and she's made over 600,000. Has the number changed since? Has the number changed since? Not sure? Okay, this is her art as of right now. Hada Pixel, $1,000. Pixel Genie, $1,000. Benzi Bananas, $600. $1,100. 481, 1,200, 1,300. When was the last time we made $600,000 in a couple of months? Right, so this is NFT. So if I actually go on to Yasmin's OpenSea page and I want to buy CoolCat 5913, I could actually put it up in my apartment in the metaverse that I buy from the Dubai government, and I will be the sole owner of that. Now, you could just upload a picture and put it up on your wall, but if someone actually clicks on the art, they're going to know that it's Hannan who owns it and not you, right? And that's verifiable using blockchain, using distributed ledger technology. I actually got an offer from this gentleman who's working with the Sheikh to build the metaverse. He's like, I'm going to sell you a dhow, a boat, on a virtual river. I'm like, why would I buy that? He's like, people from China are going to want to come to visit Dubai in the metaverse. People from the US are going to want to come and visit the Dubai in the metaverse. And you can charge them for that. You charge them 0.001 Ethereum or Bitcoin to take a tour on your dhow, and they can look at the skyline of Dubai. That's your money. But we will sell you the boat. This is real. The metaverse is real. It's in the process of being designed and developed, right? The only question is, which one really wins? Every country is going to build their own metaverse. Facebook actually changed their name to Meta because they want to be unanimous with the metaverse, and they're investing billions of dollars into it. They've bought VR headset companies to actually do that. It's just a race to see who's going to win, right? But this one NFT can actually be deployed across any metaverse in the world, and you have bragging rights. All right, so that is what a non-fungible token is. It is a digital asset that you actually own in the virtual world that gives you bragging rights, right? Another industry that's actually been impacted by Web 3.0, data storage, right? Imagine instead of Google Drive or an iCloud, you're actually storing your data across multiple servers, the safety that it comes with, the comfort that it actually comes with. Healthcare, medical records and sharing, synced with wearable devices, access to your medical records to anyone across the globe in the safest way possible, right? So Web 3.0 is disrupting healthcare as well. And then, of course, you have retail and real estate, right? So let's sort of jump back to the metaverse, and I'm going to give you a real use case of what's going to happen a few years down the road, right? We'll obviously talk about how you can adapt to Web 3.0, but what's next is you're going to be in your apartment or villa if you're doing well, kudos. You're going to be at home with a set of VR headsets. You're going to go into a virtual Dubai mall. You're going to walk into, well, my wife prefers Louis Vuitton, but I would stick to H&M. You're going to walk into an H&M. You're going to try on virtually a t-shirt or a shirt, check out using either crypto or a digital card provided by Visa, Master, whoever the scheme may be 5 years down the road. And then you're going to have the product delivered to your doorstep in person, right? Retail is going to be one of the first industries to be disrupted by Web 3.0 and especially in the metaverse. Of course, stuff like food, you can't really eat on the metaverse, but you can walk into a Costa Coffee, look at the menu, see how the barista is preparing it, order it, and have it delivered to your door, right? Real estate, this is already the norm. People are creating 3D virtual footprints of luxury apartments and putting them up online, so you as a buyer could immerse yourself in that experience, right? That's real. This is where we're headed. Sorry, if you guys have any questions, just shoot away. Any questions, any thoughts on what we're talking about so far? Yeah.
Giving our data and we'll have ownership of data.
Mhm.
But what was the concept of cookies? You accept cookies so that you can get the data.
Yeah.
And then already after.
Yeah, that's where browsers like Brave come in, right? So the Brave browser will have cookies, but it's not going to share it with big tech unless you choose for them to share it, right? It's like browsing on the Tor network, which is basically the underground web browser that you use to surf the dark web. They have your browsing history, yes. They have access to your shopping patterns, your surfing timelines, so on and so forth, but they're not going to share it with anybody until you actually consent to it, right? Let's actually take a look. That's a very good question. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Or classify it as right. And it comes down to where it's like, what is the security or what is the reverse engineering available? Or is it under progress? Is it under research? The next point is, can it be disrupted? When you say a copy of data is being stored at 3 places, if all those 3 places are known and disrupted, my data entirely will be of no use.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the chances of happening that? Disrupt the
Yeah, so that's why Web 3.0 is yet considered to be vulnerable, especially for authorities that like to regulate, right? And which is why decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum are not a favorite, which is why they don't recommend you use that, which is why it's not a legal tender that's accepted by most governments, especially in countries like India where they've clearly banned it, right? So because there isn't enough to know how they could reverse engineer decentralized technology, how to reverse engineer blockchain, right? Which is why adaptation of it is yet slow, but it's definitely moving. It's gradually moving there slowly but surely. But there's never going to be a time where technology is going to be completely safe. Sooner rather than later, there will be people who will be able to reverse engineer that for you. But yeah, this is Brave, right? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I do use Brave, but right now I'm on Firefox, which is also one of the few browsers that does not sell data. Chrome, probably one of the worst browsers you could go to. Edge, it's just so slow. I don't like Edge. But Tor, which is the onion ring network, which you use to surf the dark web, is actually based on the Firefox framework. It's just that Brave compensates you for your time. It's slightly more secure. It's based on Web 3.0, which Firefox isn't. It's still centralized, but yeah, Brave is ideal. Sorry, any other questions? Yep.
So Web 2.0 is quite sticky and achieve mass adoption scale.
Yeah.
How does Web 3 get that? It's very niche.
It is. Yeah, and it's just purely based on adaptation, right? So the sooner you transition to Web 3.0 and get your friends to actually move away from Line and WeChat and WhatsApp over to status, the more likely it is to get adopted. It's purely about masses and population, right? The sooner you start using Athlance instead of Upwork, the sooner you start using Brave instead of Chrome, right? Other companies are going to be forced to adapt the technology, right? So it's all about user adaptation, right? So the sooner we can get there, but yeah, you're right. It is extremely niche right now. I mean, how many phones do you know actually use the Essentia 1 or the EOS operating system, right? How soon do you think you're going to move away from an iPhone or an Android to actually go onto that? I'm going to be like, no, I want enough apps to actually transition to it, right? So this is nascent, right? Where we're still at a point in time where this is still new, and that's where all of you can actually get first movers advantage to see how you can actually capitalize on that, right? Can you go back to the drawing board today itself and start making NFTs and put them up on OpenSea? Can you start using Brave and start making money off of that? Can you start doing a course and build your own blockchain, right? We as a company, we've adapted, right? So we used to teach student Web 2.0 tech, and now we actually teach our school students from grades, well, not from grades 1 to 12, but from 6 onwards, how to create their own blockchain. We teach them Solidity coding. We teach them how to create their own NFTs and monetize them on OpenSea. We actually, excuse me, we actually teach them how to make their own VR and AR avatars and how to create their own metaverse, right? It all depends on how soon you can get ahead of it. And you're more likely to succeed because that's where we're headed, actually. Sorry, yeah.
How come I haven't heard of any of these?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we here in Dubai, we're a little too far behind when it comes to technology. Even if it's banking infrastructure for that matter, right? We're at least 5 years behind most of the countries out there, and which is why most incubators and accelerators are purely focused on fintech in this market. You probably haven't heard of this because there is limited penetration in the GCC market. There's very limited penetration, but those of you who have heard of it, kudos to you because you're actually better prepared than 99% of the people. The problem is awareness, and you know that's what these seminars and workshops are for, right? For us to get the word out there for you, so you could actually make the transition. All right, so how can you be a part of Web 3.0? Right, for the most part, we already are. We already dabble in a lot of augmented reality via gaming. We already use distributed ledger technology either directly or indirectly. It could be through your banking partners or so on and so forth. But making the transition to using apps consciously, right? That's how you can make sure your data is secure and no one else is making money off of it, right? You can actually monetize your data, right? So if you're a content creator, you have your own content, you should convert that to an NFT right now and start selling it. There's nothing stopping you. Even if it's something as simple as a blog article that you've written, right? Anything. It could be text, it could be images, anything that you own that is proprietary to you. You could create a non-fungible token out of it and monetize it, right? Mint your own currency, right? If any coders in the room besides, sorry, I know you code in yeah? Any other coders in the room? Yeah? Have you guys tried taking a stab at Solidity or any of the languages that, yeah? How's that going? That's so good? Okay. Yeah, so yeah, learn how to code in Solidity. It's a fairly easy language. We essentially teach school students, but I'll be sure to throw a program your way. And yeah, mint your own coin. What's stopping you? Even if it's just in friends and family, right? And then, of course, create and sell NFTs. Cool. So I'm going to take a pause here, and I'd like you guys to take some food for thought, spend 5 minutes, and maybe tell me what you think is a way you guys could adapt to Web 3.0 and how you could benefit from it, right? Besides, of course, the safety aspect of adapting to blockchain through various aspects, what do you think you could do to benefit from Web 3.0?
I can be benefited out of Web 3.0. This can be bidding out NFTs and selling it out on the platform.
Absolutely.
That's one thing. And explore this. Whatever was there in Web 3.0, we need to be aware of it. We need to know how exactly we can use it and be a part of the chain to silently observe it and accordingly utilize it when we need.
Definitely. Any other thoughts? Guys? What are you doing in school when it comes to coding?
We don't focus on stuff like Web 3.0. Maybe program.
Yeah, that's a great stepping stone. Yeah.
And also, I don't really think that to me, at least the data I have.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, big tech companies owning your data is definitely not good for you. Any other thoughts?
Some layers of application, protocol level. Make them trust.
Yeah.
Tokenomics.
Yeah.
Always that is always centralized.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a new market? Yeah, absolutely. Right, so if I had to ask you guys, would you, sorry, go ahead. No, 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 please. Yeah, absolutely. Do you own any stock in Google? Sell it. Maybe not right now, but yeah, a couple of years down the line, yes, big tech companies will lose their hold over consumer behavior using targeted advertising, hopefully as people make the transition to Web 3.0. Right? For business owners, right, you need to start thinking ahead. Right? 5 years from now, with the metaverse coming, with technology moving towards blockchain, which is decentralized and distributed ledger, right? How can you better prepare yourself for what's to come, right? If you have sensitive user data, decentralize it. Put it on the blockchain so you can instill confidence in your customers, right? They're more likely to stay with you if they're ensured that you are protecting their interests as well, right? Advertise with Web 3.0. So if I, as a user, am allowing Brave to give my data, I am open to receiving advertising that's targeted to me. You're more likely to respond to that ad. It's not going to be a cold ad that's hitting your screen. You're getting ads of data that you want, and you're more likely to convert as a customer. So if you're a business, right, you should work with browsers like Brave. You should work with companies that are allowing targeted advertising that's focused towards Web 3.0 because the recipient is allowing to receive that and they're more likely to convert as customers. And of course, turn your proprietary content into NFTs. Cool. Right. Any questions?
Your list of transitions to the see the search engine. Do you think there are any search engines right now?
So there are search engines based on decentralized technologies. There obviously the crawlers and algo is not as effective as Google. So you tend to get a little frustrated with it. Have you guys heard of DuckDuckGo? Yeah, so DuckDuckGo is extremely popular on the Tor network in the dark web. It's the go-to browser. So yeah, that is something that is used widely. But again, because there's not enough users, plus the technology may not be at par with Google's algos, it's probably not where it should be. But yeah, hopefully with time, search engine moves to that direction as well. Any other questions? Sir? Yes, right. So there is obviously a chapter of Web 4.0 that is that's sort of going to refine the entire idea of using AI to build a complete ecosystem around the internet usage. So it's going to leverage IoT and 360 connectivity to change the way you operate in pretty much every aspect, right? So it could be from sitting in your car that's self-driving to telling your bot that you want to have Japanese food and pick up your laundry on the way, and where it's going to optimize your route for you. It's going to order your meals based on what you've ordered in the past, right? So that's what Web 4.0 is striving towards. Yep, sorry. Let's take a look at some of the most expensive NFTs. This one blows my mind. That image sold for $70 million. $70 million for something you can't touch or feel. That's it. It's 4 words that sold for 52.7. Sorry, go ahead.
They're not real.
Foresight. If you have the money and you sincerely believe that the world is going digital, where everyone is going to be operating in the metaverse, you're literally the only person who can actually own that. And it's going to, why does someone buy art? Yes, you can touch and feel it, right? But how does it appreciate? It's purely demand and supply, right? A Banksy painting, a Picasso, why does it go up in value? A, it's a great way to park illicit funds. So if you have a lot of black money, buy diamonds, buy art. But B, you also buy it as an investment. It's diversity, right? So it's as good as buying physical art, except you're owning it in the virtual space. You can hang it up in your apartment in Burj Khalifa in the metaverse. But as soon as it appreciates in value, you could actually sell it. But at that point, you're exchanging physical cash. So yeah, it's basically for investments, for people who have the foresight to believe that this will appreciate in value. A lot of it is also PR and bragging rights. Another beeper, 28.9 million. And then CryptoPunks are really famous. This guy right here, 23.7, 11.7 million, 10.5 million. And this is pixelated. Gee. Oh, sorry. CryptoPunk, 7.5. So how many people here are going to go back to the drawing board, put up some art, and start selling in OpenSea? You guys? Any artists in the room? Fair point. Fair point. Sorry. Sorry, minting where? Well, to be honest, a lot of people like Ethereum because it's open tech. But when it comes to actually minting cryptocurrency, it all depends on your costs of minting, because server costs to farm crypto, it's going to be really expensive. It consumes a lot of electricity. The equipment is quite expensive. Like for instance, right now mining Bitcoin isn't even worth it, right? It depends. If you're mining a coin that you believe will appreciate in value, then it actually makes sense. Yes, there are crypto farms in various parts of the world that have tens of thousands of server racks mining coins. Does it actually work out to be profitable? I haven't done the math. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want to take a stab at mining crypto. Oh, sorry. Huh?
You want to create now Ethereum and Solana versus Ethereum. Ethereum will maybe appreciate the value higher.
I mean, yeah, it's user's choice. It honestly depends. In fact, there are a lot of platforms now that actually have begun to pay you their own crypto as well, to just start posting on their websites, and then they allow I forget what it's called, but I'll be happy to share it with you. But yeah, Solana's big. Yeah, Solana's big.
There's a lot of NFT over there, but how come, what makes these NFT special that they got sold for?
It's just demand and supply. A few people sat in the valley and they said, okay, we want to jack up the price for it. It's just purely demand and supply. There's no basis to it. There was also a lot of the first movers advantage, where these guys sort of hit the space first. It got caught in the hype. How many of these sales are even legit? I don't know, right? So if I have $50 million sitting in my crypto wallet and you wake up one day saying that, you know what, I'm building an NFT platform, can you just buy it from 50 million? I'm just going to give you access to the wallet, take the money back, right? And that's how you get a lot of publicity for your NFT platform. Are these legit? We don't know, but it is publicized widely, and it's purely demand and supply. Yeah.
It cannot show again last recent downfall. It cannot even sell for $1,000.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because now no one is getting it even $1,000.
It's true. It's true. It's the hype. It's definitely the hype. It's definitely the hype. Yeah. I mean, the source code for the internet, the first source code for the World Wide Web also sold, I think, for $1 million US. So they actually own the digital copy of the actual code that was written on the piece of paper by the guy who created the internet. And yeah, and like you rightly said, anything can be an NFT. It's a tweet. It's literally a tweet. You have rights to my tweet to publicize it. So anything can really be an NFT. So yeah, to recap, with Web 3.0, we're moving to a phase where the control of your data stays with you, where you have an option to monetize it. Technology is going to be decentralized, where the idea is to eradicate control from big tech. Right? We're going to take the power away from Google, from Amazon, and spread it across different ledgers so that no one person owns the data. And a lot of decentralization buzzwords that you hear right now are Metaverse and NFTs, which is nothing but pure NFTs is purely digital art or any token. It could be tweets. It could be a piece of paper that you've owned as a proprietary. You set it up online. And then Metaverse, of course, is your virtual world. But yeah, I usually ask everyone this question. do you think you'd be a part of the metaverse? Do you see yourself putting on VR headsets and actually logging on to a metaverse to shop, to interact, to talk to people, to pay money for digital clothes even, right? So we spoke about you walking into an H&M in Dubai Mall and having the clothes delivered to you. But would you also pay money to have the same t-shirt on your avatar in the metaverse? Show of hands, who says yes? All right. So this right here is the generation gap. This gentleman said no. All the young guys said yes, we're okay with that, right? So you actually see the mind shift. See that? Would you do it? Oh, never mind. You can actually sense the transition, but yeah, that is the direction we're going in. But yeah, do you see yourselves actually operating in the metaverse? Do you see yourself shopping there? Do you see yourself having meetings in a virtual room like this with other people? Yeah? It's awesome. Awesome. Great. So guys, my name is Hannan. If you have any questions, please let me know. It was a pleasure. Sorry, all good? Okay. Any other questions, guys? Yeah.
What does that look like? Having one DNS domain name?
Right. I mean, what are you going to do with it, really? Right. I mean, you could build your internet presence. Yeah. Yeah. So it's sort of I'm not sure how many people are familiar with instant payment handles, but it's like a unique address. It's just a byproduct of of using digital payments, so on and so forth. But that's yeah, and it's going to evolve, right? I mean, in the direction with which we see governments actually transitioning into, I don't even foresee TLDs, top-level domains, as .coms even having as much relevance, because everyone's going to be in a simulated environment, right? So if you want news information, you're actually going to walk into CNN in the metaverse and listen to them talk about it live, or you could read it on your screen after you're in their environment, right? Would you really go onto their website? We don't know. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you guys. I'm going to share my presentation with you guys, and feel free to circulate it with the group.